Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, The Silent Plea, by Griz, Calderon. Grayson's car hung precariously off the edge of the mountain, its front end wrapped tightly around a large tree that had stopped her from plummeting further. The once sleek silver vehicle was now crumpled, the windshield shattered, and the side door bent inward from the force of the crash. The headlights flickered in the early evening light, their dim glow casting long shadows across the ground, while the faint smell of burning rubber filled the air. Beyond the twisted metal, the landscape stretched out in a peaceful display of nature. Pine trees swaying gently in the wind, the sound of a distant river flowing through the valley, and a setting sun that would soon take the light of day with it. Inside the car, Grayson lay unconscious, her dark hair tangled and splayed across the dashboard. Her face, though bruised and marked from the crash, still held a striking beauty, a delicate expression that seemed to belong to someone far too kind and gentle for the world she had been living in. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, her breath shallow as she teetered between life and death. Beside her, in the passenger seat of the car, sat the Grim Reaper. The interior of the car was silent, save for the quiet creak of the metal frame. The Grim Reaper's black robe draped across the torn seat, his skeletal hand gripping the scythe that rested against his shoulder. For a moment, he simply watched Grayson, his hooded figure still and foreboding. Yet, as he looked at her, there was no malice in his presence, only a quiet reflection. Grayson's innocence and beauty struck him deeply, something about her different from the countless souls he had guided before. Her long, dark hair framed a face etched with sorrow, and though the physical wounds from the crash were apparent, it was the deeper wounds, the ones that had festered within her for years, that drew his attention. The Reaper had seen pain in many forms, but Grayson's was different. It wasn't just the physical pain from the crash that stirred something within him. It was the pain that had woven its way through her life. The heartbreak, the loneliness, the unfulfilled yearning for love. As he gazed at her, he saw everything. He saw her life unfold before him in an instant, her tireless efforts to be the perfect partner, her constant pursuit of love, always giving more of herself than she ever received in return. He saw the way she had danced when she was younger, her joy in singing alone in her room, and how all of that had slowly faded over time, as heartbreak after heartbreak dimmed her spirit. Now, she was quiet, too quiet. She no longer sang, no longer danced, no longer believed that she was enough. The Reaper felt the weight of her despair, and he knew that if he left her to survive, she would return to the same cycle of pain. He wished he could make things different for her, make it so that she wouldn't have to suffer anymore. He had never wanted anything like this before. As he watched her, he could hear her thoughts, her soul crying out to him in its pain, begging for release. Grayson, he spoke to her mind, his voice not carried on sound but in a feeling, a presence. You are in between, hovering between life and death. I feel the heaviness of your soul. I know the hurt you've carried for so long. Without any movement, they were no longer in the crumpled car. They were sitting at the top of the mountain, high above the valley where the river snaked through the trees. The sky was darkening, the air cool and serene. Grayson was there beside him, silent, but he felt her thoughts as clearly as if they were his own. She didn't want to return to her life. She was tired, tired of the fight, tired of never being enough, tired of the endless heartache. She wanted to stay with the Reaper. She wanted the Reaper to take her soul and let her be free from the weight of living. But the Reaper, though moved by her plea, could not grant her wish. Grayson, he whispered in her mind again, I have to send you back. It is not your time. There is still love waiting for you, still a life you need to live. You are tired, I know, but this is not the end for you. Go fall in love. Feel the things you've denied yourself because of the pain. I will be with you, but I cannot take you now. Her soul wept, pleading to stay, to let her remain in this peaceful place where nothing hurt, where she didn't have to face the world again. She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder as they sat together in the fading light. It was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of comfort and love. Love that didn't demand anything from her. Just a little longer, she thought, and the Reaper allowed it. He let her stay in this in-between space, hovering between life and death. Down below, rescue workers were frantically trying to extract her from the wreckage, unaware that Grayson's soul was sitting on the mountain, resisting the pull of life. They sat together, watching the world below, the sun casting a soft glow on the horizon. Grayson closed her eyes, savoring the calm, the sense of belonging she felt in that moment. But when she opened them again, she was no longer on the mountain. She was in a hospital bed, the room dim and quiet, the beeping of machines softly echoing in the background. He had sent her back. She was alive and awake, her body fragile, but healing. She didn't speak, but she understood. She kept her eyes on him, knowing he would soon be gone. The Reaper was there, standing in the corner, watching over her silently. He had given her the chance to love again, to find the happiness that had always eluded her, even though it wasn't what she wanted. And though her heart ached for the peace of the in-between, she knew he was right. "You have returned," he told her silently. "I will always be by your side when you feel lost, there to catch you when you fall. But your journey is far from over. Love will find you." And with that, the Reaper faded from her view, leaving Grayson in the quiet hospital room with something different stirring in her heart. He would return when the time was right, but until then, she had a life to live, and love to find, before their paths crossed again. The end.